During the Renaissance, one man transformed architecture from craftsmanship into scientific and intellectual field. The man was Leon Battista Alberti. Alberti was not only an architect, but also a philosopher, writer, mathematician, and humanist scholar. He did something revolutionary. He wrote the first comprehensive architectural theory of the Renaissance. Through his book on the art of building, Alberti established architecture as a discipline based on proportion, harmony, and classical principles. While Filippo Brunelleschi built the foundations of Renaissance architecture, Alberti explained its theory. This is the story of Leon Battista Alberti, the architect who transformed architecture into an intellectual and theoretical discipline. Alberti was born in 1404 in Genoa, Italy, into a wealthy family. He grew up during the early Renaissance, a time when classical knowledge was being rediscovered. Alberti received a humanist education. He studied philosophy, literature, mathematics, and classical texts. He later studied the law at the University of Bologna. Unlike Brunelleschi, Alberti was not trained as a builder. He was a scholar and an intellectual. This background shaped his approach to architecture. He believed architecture should be based on knowledge and theory. Around the middle of 15th century, Alberti wrote on the art of a building, the first comprehensive architectural treatise of the Renaissance. It was modeled on the ancient Roman architect Vitruvius, yet it was far more than a revival of classical knowledge. Alberti transformed architecture into intellectual discipline grounded in philosophy, mathematics, history, and the human reason. The book is divided into 10 books, equals the Vitruvius, but Alberti expands the discussion far beyond construction techniques. He writes about site selection, materials, public infrastructure, religious buildings, and private houses, ornament, and even the maintenance of the buildings after completion. Architecture for Alberti was not simply the making of objects. It was the ordering of an entire built environment. One of Alberti's most influential concepts is Cincinna Tusa. The word has no perfect English translation. It is often rendered as harmony, concord, or fittingness. But Alberti means something more precise. A building achieves beauty when every part is related to every other part so perfectly that nothing can be added, removed, or altered without making the whole worse. Beauty is therefore not decoration. It is inevitable consequence of correct proportion and rational relationships. This idea fundamentally changed architectural thinking. In medieval architecture, beauty was often associated with symbolism, craftsmanship, or religious expression. Alberti shifted the emphasis toward proportion and universal order. The architect became someone who designed systems of relationships rather than individual forms. Equally revolutionary was Alberti's definition of the architect. He argued that architecture begins long before construction. The architect first conceived the building entirely in the mind. Drawings and models merely communicate an already complete intellectual design. Construction becomes the execution of an idea rather than the source of design itself. This separation between conception and construction profoundly shaped the modern profession of architecture. Even today, architects are often judged more by the coherence of their ideas than by the buildings they physically construct. In many ways, Alberti invented that way of thinking. And Alberti believed beauty comes from harmony and proportion. He argued that architecture should follow mathematical relationships. According to Alberti, beauty is the harmony of all parts in relation to the whole. This idea became central to Renaissance architecture. Buildings should be balanced and proportional. Nothing should be random or arbitrary. Architecture should reflect universal order. This philosophy influenced many later architects. Although Alberti was primarily a theorist, he also designed important buildings. One of his most famous works is Santa Maria Novella. Alberti designed the facade of this church. If only order building explains Alberti's philosophy, the facade of Santa Maria Novella demonstrates it. When Alberti received the commission around 1458, the church already existed. Its lower facade had been completed decades earlier in the Gothic tradition. The upper half remained unfinished. Rather than replacing the medieval structure, Alberti accepted its constraints and transformed them into a coherent Renaissance composition. His greatest challenge was the basilica from itself. The central nave rises much higher than the side aisles. For centuries, architects had struggled with this abrupt change in the height. Alberti's famous solution was deceptively simple. He introduced two large scroll-shaped volutes that gently connect the lower aisles to the taller central section. These volutes are not merely decorative. They solve a fundamental compositional problem while visually unifying the entire facade. The entire composition is governed by geometry: squares, rectangles, circles, and triangles. Each element participates in a carefully balanced proportional system. Rather than relying on Gothic verticality, Alberti establishes stability through mathematical relationships. The facade appears calm because every part belongs to an ordered whole. Classical architecture also reappears here in a new form. Corinthian pilasters, a temple pediment, entablatures, symmetrical organization. Yet Alberti was not copying ancient Roman buildings. He was translating classical principles into a Christian church built upon a medieval foundation. The result is neither Roman nor Gothic. It is ultimately Renaissance. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Santa Maria Novella is that Alberti never erased the history. The existing Gothic doors, the striped marble decoration, even the medieval tombs embedded in the lower facade remain in their place. Instead of treating these as obstacles, Alberti observed them into a new geometric order. This reveals as an important characteristic of Renaissance architecture. Innovation does not necessarily require starting from nothing. It often means reorganizing the past through reason. Santa Maria Novella, therefore, represents more than an elegant church facade. It is a physical embodiment of Alberti's architectural philosophy: reason over intuition, proportion over ornament, unity over accumulation. The building demonstrates that architecture achieves beauty not through isolated details, but through the harmonious relationship of every part to the whole. Another major project is St. Andrea. This church introduced a monumental classical facade inspired by Roman triumphal arcs. The design includes large central arc, massive proportions, classical structure. The interior creates a powerful spatial experience. St. Andrea became one of the most influential Renaissance churches. And Alberti transformed architecture into an intellectual profession. Before Alberti, architects were often craftsmen or builders. After Alberti, architects became scholars and thinkers. He believed architects should study mathematics, understand philosophy, learn history, and develop theoretical knowledge. Architecture became a learned profession. This idea shaped the role of architects in modern society. Today, architects are still experienced to think critically and intellectually. This comes directly from Alberti's philosophy. And Alberti influenced many architects, including Bramante, Palladio, and Michelangelo. His books spread throughout Europe. Renaissance architecture became more systematic and theological. Palladio later developed Alberti's idea into a complete architectural system. Alberti's theory shaped classical architecture for centuries. Alberti remains highly relevant in contemporary architecture. His ideas about proportion, harmony, and theory are still taught in architectural schools. Architectural education still includes theory, history, and intellectual thinking. The idea that architecture is both art and science comes from Alberti. His work reminds us that architecture is not only construction, it is also philosophy and knowledge. Alberti's approach helps architects think deeply about beauty and order. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helps you better understand the foundation of architectural thinking. We are still climbing the ladder of the knowledge in architecture, art, and design. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below.